Ceri Lee. How are you?
I'm
welcome
good,
to the
you.
show.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on the show as well.
You're
Zara.
very, very welcome. And this is the first time we've ever met, isn't it?
It is, but it feels like we've met before.
So you are here to... Well, let's introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you first.
Okay, I'm Ceri Lee. I live in Ruthin, North Wales, and have a yoga studio called the Yoga Light Centre, which has been running since just before COVID, actually. We opened just before into 2019, but we're still here, which is great stuff. I'm a senior yoga teacher. I've been teaching yoga for over 25 years, practicing for like 33 now, and I teach teachers to teach yoga as well, and as well as other things.
Okay, and have you always lived in Ruthin? Are you from Ruthin?
No, I'm half Welsh, but my mother brought me up in Wales, in England, and then as soon as I left home, she moved back to Wales to be with her parents,
Okay.
and so that's how I ended up frequenting Ruthin, because she was originally Prestatyn. She's a Prestatyn girl,
Okay.
but she fell in love with Ruthin, so then I would come back to Ruthin. But I then I've lived in a lot of places. I've travelled a lot around the world with my work, but settled in the south in Essex for about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
But then, moved back about 8 years ago now, to be close to family, and set up the studio, which has all been really good.
And what did you do before getting into yoga? Did you have a job then, or was it a bit of everything?
Yeah, no, I trained to be an actor and did work as an actor, which is why I was down south. But a lot of the work, I ended up also dancing and singing, and that took me around parts of the world, which is an amazing thing, because I'd always wanted to travel. I was really passionate about travelling and getting to see the world, so did get to see the world. But I discovered yoga when I was young. I was about 22, and I learned it on my own through books, and it became such an important part of my life and my daily practice that after 7 years things had transformed within me, whereas I'd had a really unhealthy diet. Eventually my diet naturally changed because of my daily practice with yoga, and it got to the point where I just thought, hang on, I'm going to lots of jobs, auditions, and not getting a job. I've got more to offer the world than just spending my life in auditions, and that was when I had a eureka moment that this is something that needs sharing with the world. This is such a transformational practice.
Yeah, because I can imagine the acting and the singing and dancing world is fierce, you know what I mean? As in, like, we do see the people that we see on our TV shows, but how many thousands of people are going for jobs and not actually getting them?
Yeah, it's a tough call, and you've got to be tough, and you've got to be absolutely dedicated to wanting that place. But what I realised is that what I loved about the theatre specifically, being on the stage, what I loved about that was the energy within a performance and the relationship between the audience and you on the stage, and how you can hold a story through an emotional journey, actually, and you're all in that together. And to me, sometimes, even in the audience, if I'm going to visit see a production, I feel almost like it feels like a spiritual experience. The whole audience are together feeling that, and the actors are there having presented, or the singers, whether you've gone to see a gig, and everyone's in that moment together. And that to me is very cathartic and very, very special, and that sense of communion where you all just feel completely connected, and that's something that appeals to me about yoga as well. So.
And how did you go from acting to yoga? What made you start practicing yoga in the first place?
I found it in a book in my friend's bookshelf when I was living in a bedsit in Liverpool, and she was in a bedsit in Liverpool as well. And I found it, and I read the first line, and it was like, yoga, this is creating health and beauty for the whole body as a unified whole. And I was like, ooh. All of those words kind of jumped out at me, and then I looked at the pictures. There's this lovely lady in a 1960s leotard, beautifully, artfully done photographs, and so for me it was very much the art of it and the beauty of it and the grace of it. These graceful looking movements, and then these beautiful descriptions about gracefully moving in into a position, and then how you'll feel more wholesome and calmer within yourself and in your life. And so I started learning these postures, and that was that. It was right. I was feeling calmer. I was feeling more graceful in the way I moved. I was thinking about my posture.
Yeah.
And that was the way in for me.
Yeah. Because you never see a yoga person with bad posture, do you?
Well, hopefully not. No.
And so how did it go from being something that you enjoyed and getting into, for you to decide to kind of, I don't want to do the acting anymore and I'm going to turn this into my career? How long did it take for that to happen?
It was 7 years. And the practice had stayed consistent with me. And, I travelled a lot. Then I was back in London and I was doing small gigs, small productions. And you'd go to the Actors Centre in the centre of London in Covent Garden and do workshops. And there was one particular workshop which was all about, what's your life purpose? And, people weren't doing anything like that, any workshops like that at that time. That was in the 1990s, It was quite far ahead of the game. It's happening a lot now, but then it was like, wow. And I spent this whole day of, what is my life purpose? And it was like, I'm done with just sitting in queues waiting to be auditioned, and I'm done with that. I want to bring something relevant to the world. I want to share something that can transform and heal people and give people a whole different outlook and approach to living, which is exactly what yoga is. Ultimately it comes from an ancient spiritual practice that originated in India thousands of years ago. It's a holistic system for how to live. We find our way into yoga very often through the physical body and the exercise of it, but that's just the way in. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It's a vast area, and it's absolutely fascinating and continues to inspire me. I'm in this relationship for 33 years and counting. It's been a long one. It's been my longest relationship, actually.
Because I can imagine as well that if you're going for auditions and stuff all the time, it can be soul destroying. Because I'm sure, people don't mean to be mean, but they'd be like, oh no, you're too fat for this job, or you're too old for this job, or you're too, and can be, this is how I imagine it to be. I've never been down that route. Yeah. So after a while, it's got to take a toll on your own personal self-worth, and like, as thick-skinned as you can be, and I can be quite thick-skinned as well, but it's got to take a toll at some point, hasn't it? And then to go into something like you say that is all about giving and healing and helping, it must be quite a big difference.
It was wonderful. Yeah, I haven't got a thick skin. I'm incredibly sensitive, and it did take its toll on me. And probably the yoga and the mental health benefits that come through the yoga helped with those knocks in the industry. And I just wasn't hard enough. I am a sensitive little thing. I've grown a bit more tough over the years, but it was hard. But then I realised that the key essence of what was appealing to me about the yoga, and that was about the communication with people and being able to elevate people and enable people to feel better, which is what I love about the entertainment industry. So it was pushing those buttons for me. And I loved moving into the industry because it was before it became mainstream. So it was all like, woolly socks and stuffy church halls, and not very trendy at all. Yeah. And it was just real people connecting with each other, very soulful, lovely people. So I've seen it evolve over the last 25, 30 years, which has been quite an extraordinary journey for how yoga's hit the mainstream as it has.
It's massive now, isn't it?
It's huge, and you can see why. But there are elements of it that are sad to see, the projection of, you've got to look this way, the Instagram culture. It's so upsetting because that detracts so much from the essence of what yoga is. Yeah.
I've been in the fitness industry myself for over 30 years, and I've done lots of yoga on and off through the years, and it's all, it used to be when you said to people yoga, it had this real kind of perception of being a bit hippified, like you're saying, don't wash your clothes and long scraggly hair, and then somehow it's transformed into this body beautiful mini lycra outfit, vegetarian, I'm veggie myself, but vegan, and I've said this to friends before. I've met some yoga instructors, and it's almost like they feel like they're better because they do yoga. There's a perception, and I've seen it, and I've walked into. I'm confident to walk into any class. Do you know what I mean? But I have walked into classes and looked at the teachers and thinking, you're lucky that you've got this following, because you would put new people off the way that you are portraying. And unfortunately, I've been to enough classes to know that those aren't the main, but it's like you say, the Instagram poses and the little crop tops and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, because if you've got an amazing body, yes, show it off. Do you know what I mean? Actually show off anybody, but it can be off-putting. And like you say, it's coming away from the actual roots of yoga. Because I look at yoga, I've just been on a yoga retreat with my friend in India, and I'll hands up, I'm all about the exercise. I like the Ashtanga, I like the Vinyasa flows, I want to feel that burn, the stretch. But this is because I come from that fitness background, and when you try and make me go slow and breathe, I'm like that falling asleep. And people keep saying to me, you haven't quite got into the full mentality of it yet, and when you get there it will completely transform your life. But like you say, it needs more people saying this is for everybody.
Yeah, it really is for everybody. If you are curious about yoga and you've thought to yourself, oh, well, I like that, from what I've seen, it looks great, but it's just not for me. I'm not flexible enough. I hear all the time,
yes.
I'm not flexible enough. Well, that's exactly why you need to practice yoga. But I can see why it's so off-putting. If you go to a gym and there's 20, 30 people in a room, and perhaps you have some health condition, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
And so, if you are anticipating a yoga practice, and yoga can be for everybody, but you do need to find the right class for you,
because there's lots of varieties,
there's so much variety now. There are so many different styles. There are some that are much more fitness orientated, like Vinyasa yoga and Ashtanga yoga, and then you've got a beautiful form of yoga called restorative yoga, which by the sounds of it you wouldn't enjoy, because it means laying with lots of props for about 5 minutes or so.
I've done one of those.
But it's great for it's great for the relaxation response, tapping into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. And then you have yin, which is kind of like that in a way, but it's not as kind, in the sense that you're in a position which feels quite uncomfortable, and then eventually you release after a minute or two. But they can be great for fascia release, yin, and both restorative as well. And then you have Iyengar, which is came from a rehab kind of background. BKS Iyengar came to his practice as a poorly young boy, actually, and then developed his system, which includes lots of props, and it focusing on the alignment of the posture, precision. And then I've come from two strands. One of the strands is Shivananda yoga, which is originating in India. I went to India twice, and it's a form of hatha yoga, which is like the general name for the general umbrella of physical yoga, because actually yoga is not just a physical practice. There's a lot more to it, but we'll go on to that maybe in a bit. But Shivananda is a hatha yoga, but in a specific format. And that's the kind of practice I've grown with over the last 25 years, and it really works for me. And then I bring in variations, but I also learned to train remedial yoga, which I think is absolutely vital in today's world, given that according to the World Health Organization, we are getting more and more unfit every year. The statistics are quite disturbing. And that being the case, if someone is wanting to start a practice but they're not confident about their fitness, or sometimes people feel that their weight isn't right, absolutely, please don't let that be a barrier. But it is about finding a teacher that can support you and take you with postures from a really basic place and build up. And that's where I suppose people have to do their research to find. But there's loads of teachers around here.
There's loads of teachers now. And it is going like anything. It's you have to find your fit. You have to start with the beginners, obviously, and then you have to find the one that suits you.
Yes.
And then the teacher that suits you, and the because you'll find, won't you, that different teachers attract different people. So if you like that teacher, generally speaking, in that class, you're going to probably like the majority of the people in the class, because you're probably going to be of a similar ilk, because that's what's attracted you in the first place.
Absolutely.
And it's, I mean, I teach a fitness Pilates class every Friday, and I do quite a few stretches in my class, and it's amazing. I mean, it's not yoga, but it's amazing, even that, what people have come back to me and said, like a lady who had a lot of back problems, and now she doesn't have any back pain.
Yeah.
And it's just from this repetitive, gentle stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And yoga's a whole new, because you've got the exercise, haven't you? But the main part is more the breath work, isn't it?
It's not the main part, but it's I would say a classical yoga class incorporates posture, breathwork and relaxation almost in equal measure. Perhaps that's if you're going to relax between postures, which in an hour class you can't really, it's a bit too much. But certainly the breathwork with the posture, absolutely. There is a saying that yoga, the postures are for the body, and what breath work is for the mind, what the postures are for the body. So the breath work is really about bringing the mind and body into balance, but also helping to ease or recalibrate the central nervous system so that the mind can become still and balanced. And that's when you find your inner harmony, when you have that space to do that.
Because one of the biggest causes of illnesses is stress, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And people live stressful lives, don't they?
Yes.
And you need an outlet. And I do think, because I've met people where, because I guess because I've done fitness my whole life. So, and two of my fitness sports, my first one was Thai boxing. So I used to stretch, because I wanted to do splits. So I could do them on one side. And once I could do one side, I thought, that'll do.
Oh.
And then from there, I went into pole dancing. So even though I taught all the mainstream fitness, they were my two sports on the side. So stretching since I was 20. So I'm still very, very flexible. But I meet so many people and I watch how little their bodies can actually move. Yeah. And they're still only quite young. Yeah. And you know that lots of problems with the body comes from stress from the mind and no movement in the body. Yeah. So, and it just, the people should do it, and it doesn't have to be full on. And like you say, they can turn up in their trackies, their t-shirts, their anything, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wear layers that you can move in.
Yeah.
Because you may find you do get warm, and you wouldn't be expecting to with slow movement. But actually, the work can be quite intense, more so than you might imagine. And it isn't just stretching. It is focusing. Well, again, it depends on the class you go to, but certainly for me, I'm a bit core centric. It's all about the core because it's the central point of movement, and focusing on the core can build up so much heat unexpectedly, not through moving much at all.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. Okay, we're going to play a song and then we're going to come back and we are going to talk about breath work. Yes, talk a bit more about breath work and the links to how it's going to help your mental health.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Okay, we're back again. So if you're just tuning in now, I've got Ceri Lee on the show with me, and we're talking all about yoga, the different types of yoga, the benefits to your body. And we're now going to talk a little bit about breath work, because you said before that the yoga physical poses are more for the body and the breath work is more for your mind. So how can we breathe every single day, so how is breathing
I know
going to help our minds?
Yeah, my mum has a joke like, oh well, I don't need any work in breathing, I breathe perfectly well enough as it is, but
I'm alive.
But we breathe unconsciously, and unfortunately, thanks to our stress-filled culture, we breathe a lot more shallowly than we ought to be. Basically, because we are in such a stress-fueled life, in a fast life, we have kind of got into this kind of stuck record place of the amygdala, in which is the reptilian brain, which is when when you are in perceived danger, there is a message sent from the nervous system to the amygdala, the reptilian brain, to say, we're in danger, do something about it. So then that brain sends a message to the endocrine system, which produces the hormones to produce cortisol and adrenaline to quicken your heartbeat and make your breath shallow so that you can get away from that perceived danger or to fight it. That's the process of what happens. Unfortunately, our brain hasn't yet developed in that area where it's being able to recognise, okay, stress isn't a perceived life threat, but we tap into that part of the brain. And the beauty of yoga, I mean, even the slow movements of yoga, but specifically the pranayama, the breathing techniques, enable you to create a space before the trigger sets a response. So what it's training the brain to do is through the breath to slow the breath down, and we work with specific breathing techniques to be able to cut that instinctual response and just create a bit of space away from it. And when you can then drop down into the breath, your cognitive mind then is able to tap in, and you're able to start thinking, well, do I need to run away here? Do I really need to have my fast heartbeat and quick breath? And so it enables you to begin to rationalize again. And that's where the great power is in the yoga practice, in the yoga breathing practices.
Because it is that, isn't it? You know, that's the fight or flight, isn't it? And they say things like, you know, anxiety and fear and excitement, that they're two sides of the same coin. So your body is reacting. If you're absolutely I was going to swear then scared, it's exactly the same as if you're super excited. It's just how your brain is translating the emotion.
Absolutely,
Which, when you're excited, is great. You want all the heart rate and the excitement, but if it's the fear side, then it's no good, is it? And then, like you say, and these things can be caused by stress, can't they? And then you go into, because you hear a lot of people having panic attacks, and it's for the perceived, because panic is about and anxiety is about the perceived, what's about to happen, isn't it?
That's exactly
and 9 times out of 10 nothing bad is going to happen. But it's the brain that's taken over. And so you're saying with some breath work we can switch that off, bring ourselves back to, actually, there's nothing life-threatening or frightening happening here.
That's it.
I mean, if you're about to jump out of a plane, then you've got every right to panic.
and the breath would be the last thing you're thinking about.
It'd be clinging on to that instructor for dear life. So, can you, for our listeners, can you do a very simple breath work that they could do?
Okay, yes, absolutely. So, if you're listening now and you are not driving, if you're driving, perhaps you can just listen, but don't sit down and be still. Keep focused on what you're doing. But if you are able to sit down for a moment and focus, then come and sit down and just close your eyes if you feel comfortable to, or just drop the eyes downwards so that you're not distracted by anything around. And place the feet on the ground, ideally 2 feet on the ground, so that you can feel earthed and grounded. Perhaps place your hands on your lap and just begin to notice the breath moving in through both nostrils. And perhaps visualise the breath moving down the body, like as if it's following the spine. And then exhale back up the spine and out through the nose. And as you do this, you might find you have slowed your breathing down a little bit. Now place one hand on your heart centre and one hand on your belly. And as you breathe, see if you can notice where most of the movement is. Is it in your hand that's placed on the chest, or the hand that's placed on the belly? Don't do anything, just notice at the moment. And continue to slow the breath just a notch, not to the point where it becomes uncomfortable. And steady that breath and smooth it. So you're really focusing on keeping a smooth and steady rhythm that's slowing down. And as you continue to breathe, just see if you can extend the out breath, just an extra count from the in-breath. So you're just seeing if you can draw the out-breath out just a little bit longer. And then if there's anything that's been stressful lately or difficult, perhaps on your next breath you can just consciously breathe it out. And just say to yourself, I'm breathing this out. I'm letting it go. And you can stay with this for a minute or two, or as long as you want, until you feel grounded and a little bit more centered, less discombobulated, a little bit more in harmony and balance. And then when you feel more balanced and centered, you can just gently lower your hands, and when you're ready, open your eyes and continue with the rest of your day a little bit more calmly, hopefully.
Oh, so that's quite straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Because I've seen different ones where you breathe in one nostril,
Yeah.
hold out.
They're great. But, I think for your listeners, it's probably not very helpful to start with that, especially when you can't see, because it is a little bit confusing at
circular
first.
breathing, that one.
It's alternate nostril breathing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I've done, because I do a lot of, I haven't done so much this year, but going in the water.
Yeah.
So I started it a few years ago. I started in lockdown, and then so I read Wim Hof's book, watched all his things.
Yes.
So I started doing his breath work with him. And that's completely different again.
Holotropic breathing, I think, isn't it?
It's very, very fast, and then you hold your breath in, hold your breath out. It's quite bizarre, and I keep going through phases with that. It's quite intense, is probably what I think of it. But I did find when I was doing it a lot, at the same time I was doing quite a bit of running, and I found that my running got easier from literally that 10 minutes of breath work, which is quite mad, isn't it?
Yes. It's very powerful. I did read something recently where our lung capacity is the single greatest determiner in longevity.
Yes.
Okay. So this test was done over 30 years in the University of Buffalo. It was completed in 2000, I think. And without any doubt, they realised that it was all about your lung capacity that would determine how likely, if assuming you didn't have another health condition, if that was the only thing that was going to take you in life, you would have a longer life if you had increased lung capacity. Wow. So more than a healthy diet, more even than how fit or healthy you are in that respect, came down to lung capacity, which I think is quite mind blowing. But then breath is life, so actually it's not that mind-blowing when you think about it, is it?
And it's funny, isn't it? Because I think if you don't concentrate on your breath, you wouldn't probably notice that you're breathing shallowly.
Absolutely.
It's when you start concentrating. I remember a few years ago, I'm going back about 10, 12 years, I had a panic attack. And it was out of nowhere. People couldn't believe it because, for me.
Yeah.
And I had about 5 of them in a really close space of time. And I remember I kept on having these rushes on my heart and everything. So I actually went to the hospital. I think I'm dying. I think there's something wrong with me. And they put all those stickers on me. And then they said, your lungs and your heart is amazing. What do you do? And I said, well, I teach fitness. I've done it my whole life. Yeah. And then when there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, what it transpired to me. So after that, I gave up caffeine. I gave up anything that would trigger the elevating of my heart unless it was exercise. And it turned out it was stress. So it was literally the stress. At the time, I had my own studio. Everything, we'd hit a recession. Everything was going wrong. I didn't even realise how much stress I was under on a daily basis until it went away. Mm-hmm. It was phenomenal. And it was that triggered it all. And it was, but I'd never, like you say, never had anything tested. But it was quite crazy. It was a really crazy, scary time. So I have a lot of sympathy for people that do suffer with anxiety and panic because I've felt that sensation and it's awful. Yeah,
it is horrible. And it physically affects you.
Yeah, well, mine used to be, I always thought panic attacks were when you saw people breathing into a brown paper bag. So I didn't hyperventilate. What I did was I went through this, where my heart was racing, I was sweating, and then what would come was this insane fear. Yeah. I was so frightened. But I had and my rational brain is going, but what are you frightened of? Nothing's happened.
Yeah.
it also then triggered for me that I actually was quite claustrophobic. So these things I'd done for years, which I thought, I used to say that if you got into a lift, you were lazy. No, I was actually scared of the lift. I didn't know I was scared of the lift. It unlocked loads of things. I was like, jeepers, ignorance was much better. And obviously I worked through it and I'm fine now. It still niggles at the back of my mind if everything gets a bit too crowded or whatever. But then I had a lot of sympathy for people that did suffer. But then I did realise that you can actually change this. There is tools to recognise almost what your trigger is.
Yes.
And then to work out, and breath was one of them.
Yeah. And I think that, again, you know, coming back to the yoga, that's where yoga can be a wonderful place to be able to work through things. Yeah. Assuming you have the appropriate teacher, because, you know, you're talking about stuff that's quite deep and trauma-based, but just on a basic level, a yoga class, or certain yoga classes, I should say, not all of them, give you that space where you can safely start to unpack, because yoga is all about self-inquiry and self-awareness and growing self-awareness through the practice of the postures and the breath work. And in that accepting non-judgmental, non-competitive space, which yoga ultimately is, and hopefully if you find a class that you'll find that it's non-competitive and non-judgmental, that you're able to do that. Although I have to say, I find that most people are most competitive with themselves, actually. Yes. We can be our hardest, worst person to try and defeat.
And don't you get it when somebody comes into your class and you go, right, these are different levels, because some people have been going, and then you see the brand new person attempting the hardest thing you've just said.
I know, but it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing. But, you know, and I think that's another thing about yoga, because it's not goal orientated, it's about joy in the journey. But our modern fitness world is all about the goal and the competition, and so it can be a real difficult mind shift for somebody to then think, oh, I'm not having to compete with the person next to me, or and realising they're not being judged if they're not doing it exactly like the teacher is. It's a very accepting place, and that enables people to, over time, build trust within themselves and then with the class that they're in, you know.
And I do think with yoga, once you've got over the initial thing of walking in, whereas a fitness class, because I've taught fitness, all eyes are on me because they're copying me, they're mimicking me. Whereas with yoga, you don't have to watch the teacher a lot of the time, as long as you're listening to the voice. And some of the positions that you would go into, sometimes you're told to close your eyes. Sometimes you're, like, say if you're doing a downward dog, you're upside down. So you stop actually looking at anybody else. Yes. Because you don't actually need to, as long as you're listening. Yes. And good yoga teachers will come around and, you know, like say they've said, put your body in this position, and they can see you're not quite doing it. They'll come and manoeuvre you, so you, because sometimes you don't quite feel, you know, they're saying, okay, do this, get your things down, get your bum up, lengthen, lift. Sometimes you're thinking, I am lengthening. And then, because I always remember in downward dogs, it was years ago, a lady would come behind my hips and just pull them slightly. And then I'd think, oh, is that what you meant by lengthening?
And it's just a gentle shift, isn't it?
So it's very, I think once you get over that initial walking in, then you're not paying attention to anybody else, and no one's paying attention to you.
Yeah. That's what you need to realise as well. It's about you on your mat. It's really not about anybody else. Yes, you might want to look over to someone to check that you're, you know, going in the right direction. But really, you know, I think the practice, as much as the posture, is the practice of really making that commitment to yourself for that hour, and not really worrying about anybody else, and just really focusing on what you are doing on that mat in that given moment, and learning to live more in the present moment. It's not what you do, it's the way that you do it, and that's what gets results.
That's a song.
That's a song, isn't it? From the 80s.
And also, it's your time, isn't it? Time out of your life, time out of away from the kids shouting, the whatever's going on in your life.
Oh yeah,
you
time
have
for
an
you.
hour all for you.
And I think that's it, and that's why I find it so transformational. When I first started and gave myself 45 minutes a day, and then I began to find my body was changing shape a little bit, I was calming down, and I was, you know, beginning to really start to cherish me. And that was where the change came in the diet, I think. It was like, hang on, what am I putting in my body? This is my I've got to look after. It's my clothing, for my soul, if you like, and I've got to look after it.
Yeah.
So what am I putting in the body as well?
Yeah.
And it starts to shift your mind without anyone telling you. Because if anyone tells me to do something, it's like, why?
Yeah.
But it's coming from inside out, and that, I think, is the beauty and the power of yoga. It's an evolution. I don't know whether that's the right word. You evolve within yourself, naturally.
And I do think when you start looking after yourself, even in the tiniest bit, and you start to feel that little bit better, you then want to do something else that's better for you. And I've always said, for somebody that loves healthy food but also loves pizza and chips and wine, that the more good I do to my body, then the natural progression is the nutrition will come with it.
Yes.
Because it's all, like when you've just come home, you've done a workout, you feel amazing, you don't then want to go and eat some pizza and crisps and wine, because you kind of go, I feel like I'm going to undo all my goodness.
Yeah, and I think also, so for me anyway, it's because of that self-reflection time that it gives you. I can tell what my body might want to eat, and you're craving something, and I've got to the point now where I can, it could actually be ginger, but because I perceived ginger in a biscuit, I'd have thought a biscuit, but actually it wasn't the biscuit I wanted, it was the ginger. And you become to really get discerning about what you're beginning to need in your body, because nutrition and diet is also an important part of yoga. It's one of the 5 principles. Along with meditation, relaxation, the asana, and positive thinking and meditation,
And it's like you say, isn't it? Because I used to get quite a lot, because I love crisps. There's no two ways about it. I wish they'd all be banned and disappear. But anyway, and then somebody said to me, you're craving salt.
Yes.
So then I've always got olives in the fridge now.
Great.
So I eat olives, and it is amazing.
It does help,
It does help. It stops me, because I don't have crisps in the house, because I would eat them, but it stops me from, because I live quite close to Asda, it does stop me from running around the corner to get a bag of crisps, because all of a sudden I've just put a whole load of salt in my mouth, and actually,
and you've satisfied the craving.
It's that where your brain, like you're saying, can take you to. So the other thing, we could talk about yoga for all day, couldn't we? So the other thing you told me is you do teacher training. So you train people to be yoga teachers. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, we've got one starting on the 11th of September, actually. And it's a hybrid course. So it's part online, but over 4 weekends in 12 months, people will come to the studio. And I set it like that because I took 2 routes when I did my own training. I went out to India for an intensive, living, breathing, eating yoga on an ashram. It was full on and it was brilliant. However, I was also taking another course, which was focused on remedial yoga. And that was a year long, which I then extended to 2 years because I wanted to go deeper into the remedial side because it did fascinate me. And the 2 different approaches were brilliant. So the Shivananda yoga was this, intense spiritual discipline and physical discipline. And the remedial was very much about meeting the person where they were at rather than you meeting the posture where it was at. It was totally different. It flipped it on its head. So that to me was a brilliant training. And that was like over a year, and you'd get study papers delivered to you in the post, which was lovely. And then you'd have time to reflect and write. So I wanted to bring in both of those elements where you had the immersion. So we've got the 4 weekends over a year where we'll be together, and that will be kind of fully immersive. And then we've got the period of the time over the 12 months where they'll get dropped, not in the letterbox, but through their emails, they'll get the occasional study paper, which is great. Now, the fantastic thing about this course is that I've been at this game a long time and have gathered some superb experts in their field to offer their part in and collaborate in this training. So we've got a wonderful chap called Dr. Yogi, who was a doctor, and his specialism in anatomy and physiology.
Brilliant.
We have another guy called Daniel Simpson that's written, I think his second book's just come out, but his first book is called The Truth of Yoga. He's a top scholar on Hindu philosophy.
Brilliant.
And then we have Sarah Savitri, who's a friend of mine from Essex, who's superb in Bhakti Yoga, which is a devotional calling a devotional part of yoga, which we haven't really talked about the different paths of yoga. Devotional yoga is an important part of yoga, which comes out through singing and chanting.
Okay.
And then my auntie Ellen Lee, who was a significant player with the Independent Yoga Network, which unfortunately disbanded a few years ago. She's bringing her knowledge on the politics and ethics of how you run a business in this world, you know, and how difficult that is. There's a lot going on, and I think I mentioned earlier, so the style I teach is Hatha, but it's with a strong Shivananda format, which the trainees will be learning, but also learning quite a lot about remedial yoga, because I think I said earlier that we need to be able to meet people where they're at.
Yes.
And so it's important to me that we're able to create a community of teachers who are really confident in being able to adapt the classical postures, because that's what it comes down to, being able to adapt and understand the significance of a lot of health issues in today's age and how that affects people, so that they have a certain knowledge when they go out into the wider community and shine the torch.
Yeah, because like you say, if they're going out and they're not because I know there's people out there that you can go and do really short courses and they have no background and they come out and they do it and they treat it very much like an exercise class.
Yes.
And there's a chance then you're going to put people off completely, because they go, tried that yoga thing, it's no good.
And that's what I would also say to someone that's looking to want to start a yoga class. Don't be put off by the first person.
Yes.
As Zara just said, there are a lot of people out there that have only just done it over a weekend, and it's not truly yoga, but yoga gets used a lot as the name on the tin.
Yes.
And perhaps that's a bit
they should be called stretching classes, shouldn't they? Not necessarily a yoga class.
Possibly, because to be honest, it is an inner practice and it takes years. It's a very subtle practice. It looks very obvious on the Instagram posts with all the postures, but actually the true value of yoga and the power of yoga is very, very subtle, and it takes time, and it's not something you can learn overnight, and it does take a regular commitment. So, if you have been nervous about starting a class before, I really hope that this has enabled you to feel a bit more confident about approaching another class.
Yeah.
And if anyone's also a yoga teacher or aspiring to become a yoga teacher and looking around at taking a yoga teacher training course, then please do check out what we're going to be starting in September. It'd be lovely to have you on board.
And it's a bit like that analogy, isn't it? When you're finding a boyfriend, you might have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. It's a bit the same with yoga, isn't it? Because there's so many different styles.
Yeah, it is.
And different teachers and everything. So yeah. So how do people find you? So if they're interested in your classes, your teacher training, reaching out to you, how do they find you?
Yeah, well, the website is yoga-light.com, and on socials you can find us at Ceri Yoga Light. Basically, if you typed in Ceri Yoga and Light, you'd find me. Just remember those three words, the three magic words: Ceri Yoga Light.
Ceri Yoga Light, and it's Ceri with a CERI, not an English. It's the Welsh version of Ceri, not the English, like I did on my post.
Oh, bless you.
Oh, well, it's been lovely having you on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting with you and hearing about your journey as well.
Yes.
We've got a lot in common, really, haven't we?
Yes. Getting a bit older, lots of things to talk about. Okay, we're going to play out with The Weekend, and I'll be back after this to do my normal bits of chit-chatting away to you guys.